Hi, my name is Jessica Freeman, and I'm going to walk you through my technology integration plan as well as implementation. So, the plan for my technology integration is two parts. The first part is a notes check on Canvas. Usually, I did a notes check by having the students actually physically bring me their notes. I looked through their notes to make sure they had everything and gave the notes back to the students. That was a crazy day in class whenever we did those because I was rushing as fast as I could to get as many notes checked as I could. Hi, my name is Jessica Freeman, and I am going to go through my technology integration plan, which I have put together on my online digital portfolio. So the plan consisted of two parts. The first part was a notes check that I had my students do on Canvas. Up to this point, my students' notes checks have been when they brought me their notebook, I checked their notebook for their notes. I would check for certain things in their notes, and then I would give their notebook back to them. My students also, as part of their notebook, did a writing prompt in their notebook that I would read through. This made the class time very chaotic and rushed for me because I was going through 30 notebooks, checking for 30 different writing prompts, and checking notes for lots of different things. So I changed the notes check to be on Canvas, where students were really doing the notes check themselves. They could use their notes to answer questions on a Canvas quiz, and the questions on the quiz were all just things that they would find in their notes. For example, what is the formula for the area of a circle? Or what type of units do we use for circumference? That kind of thing that they would have to answer. Then the last question would be their writing prompt that I could then go read and grade whenever I had time to, and I didn't have to rush through it during class. The second part of my technology integration project was formative assessments. Once a week, I did a formative assessment on the computer instead of my normal just walking around and helping students and paying attention to what students were struggling or what I needed to review more. And the reason for doing them on the computer is that the computer would collect data for me so I could specifically exactly see what problems students were struggling on, and therefore I could plan my lessons in the future based on that data. These two times were not the only times that students use technology in my class. I actually love using technology. In particular, my students do their homework online on ALEKS because the computer gives them immediate feedback if they got the question correct or not, and it gives them sample problems. So if they are not sure how to solve the problem, it will show them how to do that. They're also able to redo their homework as many times as they want to until they get 100%, which means that they 100% understand what they're doing. So that was the plan. So now I'm going to go through each week so you can see what happened in my plan. So week one, as my formative assessment, I had my students do an assignment on Go Formative. This was my first time ever using Go Formative, and the thing I loved about Go Formative was that students were able to show their work on Go Formative. Showing their work is such an important part of math, and students struggle a lot when they are not able to show their work or they choose not to show their work because they easily miss steps. So I loved that students showed their work, and I was able to see it from my Go Formative teacher view of the assignment. What I have here as my artifact for Go Formative was the screen that shows which students got correct or missed which questions. And I really appreciated this screen because the way it's organized, I could easily see students who did well. I could also easily see, oh, look, this particular question a lot of people missed, for example, question 8. That is something that I need to go over as a class. That is not something that I just need to do individual interventions with students. So I really liked the Go Formative. The thing I did not like about Go Formative was that the program did not tell students if they got a question correct or not. I had to tell them if they got it correct or not. So this was easy in small classes, easy for me to help students and keep up with students who are missing questions or getting them right. But in larger classes, that was a lot harder to keep track of who I had already helped and who fixed their work and getting to every single student. Although that was a challenge, it was really nice to be able to see as students went through an assignment how they were doing. So if I had done this on paper, the problems still would have arisen where students throughout the entire class were struggling or doing something wrong, but I would not have known who was doing something wrong until they turned in the assignment or asked for help. Then here's my artifact for the notes check for that week, just showing the student with their notes and doing their notes check. So that was week 1. Week 2, my formative assessment was on Desmos, and I have used Desmos before. This was not my first time using Desmos, but I love Desmos because there are so many different types of activities on Desmos. Some are exploratory, some students interact or are paired with people in the class, and others, students are just practicing. So here they were exploring similar slopes. So they're exploring, well, what needs to change so that the slope is the same or so that it's different. And I love Desmos because students are able to see what their peers are saying. Again, sometimes that depends on the type of question or type of assignment. But they're also often, the math is paired with something visual that students can see. So for example, this page that they're all working on right now, the slopes, had to make the slopes so that they were all the same, and then it actually compared them visually so they could actually see, oh, are my slopes the same or not? And this is my notes check on Canvas, and I just made a video that I'm not really going to play through, but it shows just walking through that, the different types of questions that were on my notes check, which ended with a writing prompt. So that was week 2. Week 3, excuse me. Week 3, my formative assessment, I actually did a few different ones, and I really liked this. This ended up working really well for me. The first one they did was GeoGebra, which is here on my artifact, is a screenshot of Impero showing all of their screens. But here's GeoGebra where they had to graph something, and I loved this because we were practicing graphing, and on paper, I have to go around and I have to check every single graph and see if it's correct or not. But on the computer checked for them. So they graphed it, and either it was a success or it was not. Excuse me. So I made students do multiple graphs and submit screenshots of each correct graph to me on a Canvas assignment. So that was the first of the formative assignments. The next one you can kind of see in these smaller shots on the Impero screenshot. The next one was a Nearpod assignment. I have used Nearpod a couple times, but not a lot. This Nearpod assignment was a matching one where students had to match the equation to the graph, table, or description. I really liked the matching. It's so important for students to be able to match the equations. But the thing I didn't like was how small it was. So it would have been a great activity to do, cut out actual matching squares for students to match. Just because it would have been easier to read or see the tables, graphs, and equations. But I really liked, same as always, that the computer told them if they were right or wrong. And this week, I also did an exit ticket on Socrative, or Socrative, I apologize, I don't know how to say that, which I really liked. The way the exit tickets work is question 1 is always, how confident do you feel about what we did today? Question 2 is describe what we did today. And question 3 is just answer the question on the board. So I put a question up on the board. And I love this, especially question 1. It's so easy for me to look through and see, oh, look, this is the percent of students who felt good about it. This is maybe the percent who are in the middle, and then there's even a couple who had no clue what was going on. Now, these people who had no clue what was going on, I can look over at question 3 and see, oh, they didn't feel confident, but they actually did a good job. And here's a screenshot of Impero, my students doing their notes check on Canvas for that week. Big fan of the notes check. I really like the notes check on Canvas because students are doing it themselves. One thing I noticed I did not like about the notes check is that in the writing prompt, students, or at least for math, it's really helpful to have pictures. And so when students were actually writing their writing prompt, they were easily able to make pictures. But in Canvas, that is not something that's as easy to do. Then week 4, this was my final week of this project, not my final week of using technology though. So the way this week started was with me creating this assignment where students were going to go to mathgames.com and they were supposed to write the equation of tables. Loved it, great program, great concept that they needed to understand. Big flaw was that when I gave students the link to this specific assignment, for some reason the link just took them to the home page. And it wouldn't let them go to this assignment until they signed in. And then they had to go through and find the assignment. And that ended up being just not an effective use of time. So after first period and having to maneuver everyone through this process of finding this assignment, I changed my mind and we didn't do this. So that was something, from this project that I learned about technology, is that even though I had this great tool online that I really liked, it was a concept students needed to practice and learn. Just because I like it doesn't mean it's actually going to be effective in class. So instead of doing that assignment for the rest of class, I actually did a Kahoot, which I rarely ever do. I really don't do them that often, but I found this Kahoot that I really liked. It was really vocabulary, deciding what vocabulary words match up with slope and what words match up with y-intercept. And this was awesome because I get in the habit of saying slope or saying y-intercept when there's so many other things. Like y-intercept is the same thing as x is 0. It's the same thing as where the line crosses the y-axis. Or slope is the same thing as rate of change or unit rate. But I just am not in the habit of using that vocabulary. So this was a great assignment where students were able to review those concepts. And then for the notes check this week, I made my notes check all about the vocabulary of slope and y-intercept. So students had to remember which vocabulary matched up for slope and which matched up for y-intercept. So overall, here's my reflection. Overall, I love using technology. I love the tools that are already available online. I love the things that I'm able to create with them. But I know that it's not perfect, and I know that not everything should be done with technology. There's still a lot of value, especially in math, for students using paper and pencil. And I will continue to use technology in my class as well as paper and pencil. I'm going to continue to do the notes check, and I want to continue to do formative assessments on the computer so that I can continue to actually collect data and solid evidence of what my students are learning in class. Thank you so much for watching my presentation about my technology integration project.